And I asked him, man, do you think that LSU is for real? And he fired back, hell yeah, go Tigers. He thinks they're for real, man. How are you, Pat? Good morning.
Good morning, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing
Yes,
good,
they
man.
are, Jordy. Yes, they are.
I
For real.
before we get to basketball, I was sitting in section 629, row 10, seat 11 last Sunday in the NFC Championship game when the New Orleans Saints were robbed by the NFL officials to move on to the Super Bowl. Where were you when? Where were you? Give me some sports
When the pass.
tragedies.
Oh man, yeah, that was definitely a theme for this week. Um, Certainly, there's a lot of New Orleans Saints fans, and I've been to a Saints game. I got a very strong affinity for Saints and all things that we got going on down in New Orleans. So it hurt me a little bit. There's no
Oof.
question about it. I think everybody probably wanted to see Drew Brees and Tom Brady one last time, maybe the two old guys. But yeah, that was tough to swallow. You know, I'm still bitter about a few of David Tyree's Super Bowl catch, Giants, Patriots, just an incredible catch off of his
Hey,
helmet.
Pat,
That
get the
I
hell
don't
out of
know.
here with those stories, man, and the success that the Patriots have had. I wanted you to tell me where you were
Okay.
when Buckner flubbed the grounder, man. Ever since then, if you're an 18-year-old kid in Boston right now, it's Camelot. I mean, they're celebrating
That's right.
Bruins, Patriots, Celtics, Red Sox. I mean, you don't know.
It's brutal.
It's unbelievable.
I was probably at 86. I was 10 when that happened. When Bill Buckner, the ball went through his leg, so I was probably watching like a bunch of my uncles smash beer cans off their heads after that tragedy of Buckner going through his leg. But you know what really still burns me up is when the Celtics lost Game 7 to the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals a few years back.
Yeah.
That one got me, man.
Yeah.
And then Ray Allen leaves and goes to the Heat. I mean,
Hits
come
the
on,
three.
Ray Allen.
Hits the three. All right, so we were talking about LSU basketball. Hey, I tell you what, man, I can relate. My uncles are kind of the same way about LSU basketball. The mid-'80s for the Tigers was something special. I'd say the early '80s. They went to an '81 Final Four, and they did it again in '86. My uncles are kind of looking for those days. Where do you kind of fit in on this LSU basketball team right now? As they're undefeated in conference play and coming off of a Georgia performance where their defense maybe failed them.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that certainly Will Wade isn't shy talking about is wanting to get those guys connected defensively. And what the interesting thing is, I'm watching that Ole Miss game, and something just stuck out to me throughout the game is LSU, the length that they have defensively, and they're in top of the category in the SEC in steals. And you can see the great length that they have defensively. They're touching balls, getting deflections, affecting guys when they're trying to attack the paint. So, there's some positives there. And I think when you look at the rebounded numbers from a defensive rebounded standpoint, I mean, you got some dudes out there with Big B Williams, Emmett Williams, of course, Naz Reid, even Skylar Mays is a big guard that can get in there and mix it up. Marlon Taylor is about as nice as an athlete as we've seen in college basketball. So from a defensive standpoint, they've got the pieces there. It's just you've got to make it a priority, a sense of urgency. And LSU's not the only team. Listen, Tennessee last year hung their hat on defense. This year, they don't have that sense of urgency defensively, it seems, until late in the game. So the same with LSU. Offensively, Tremont Waters has every weapon to work with. We've seen that. That's easy to see. But defensively, is the task now is getting those guys to buy in to truly to make a deep run. I'm talking Elite Eight. I'm talking deep run in the tournament. You got to prioritize defense. You got to be connected on defense.
You mentioned Marlon Taylor, and LSU's won 8 in a row. They inserted him into the starting lineup 8 games ago. He has evolved as a basketball player. I think he's one of the top athletes in the league. What do you see when you see Marlon Taylor's game?
Man, I see explosiveness, elevator man. He just pushes a button and he goes whatever floor you want him to go on. He's one of those guys. He doesn't jump as high as he can. He jumps as high as he has to. And when you add in the fact Now he's shooting over 30% from the 3-point line, feeling a lot more confident. I look at a player like him that can wreak so much havoc because of his athleticism. But you mentioned evolving defensively. You tell me who he can't match up with,
Yeah.
with all that strength and athleticism. And from an offensive standpoint, if he can continue to get confidence in his shot, number one, shooting over 70% from the free throw line. So that's encouraging because now he's a guy that, that's the trick is when you've got physical guys who don't shoot the free throw well, do they hesitate to take it to the rim now? And so you don't have that issue with him. I know that was a key player for Will Wade to have this year.
Yeah.
He talked about athleticism on the wings to match up with certain teams. So I mean, I don't know if he anticipated he'd be getting this much out of Marlon Taylor, but I think he's getting as much as he can now. And there's no question that there's still bright future for him.
Pat, when you see Naz Reid play, do you see a guy that is potentially a one-and-done player or somebody that could use more college basketball?
That's a good question because I'm always for, you hear one and done, and I don't know what people's perception of it is, but the reality is if you do need more time to work, and I had this conversation last night with Daniel Gafford at Arkansas, who last year could have got drafted, came back. And, the challenge in that question is, so you're telling me if he leaves next year, he is going to be paid to work on his jump shot. He's going to be paid to work on his back to the basket. He's going to be paid to lift weights. He's going to be paid to stretch. So, or he comes back and plays college basketball another year and has a good year, improves on his weaknesses, and then gets drafted in a higher spot potentially, which would slot him into a higher salary for his rookie salary, and then, continuing to be able to make more money in the NBA. So can anybody be better? Like, everybody will be better if they work hard enough next year than they are this year. The question is, when do you want to make the NBA leap? And, so that's why the answer is never that easy, because we've seen guys slip back. But I don't think if you're dedicated to get better, Naz Reid has a goal of wanting to be, say, a top 10 pick, and he comes back to LSU next year and busts his tail in the gym, he can be. If that's his goal, top 5, that's his goal. So it's just up to him where he wants. If he just wants to play in the NBA, he will. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's just what his goal is set. You look at Robert Williams, Texas A&M, just got drafted by the Boston Celtics, right? Last year. When he decided to come back last year to Texas A&M, he didn't improve. So, what are you going to do? It's up to you. It's on you how well you want to be prepared to come out and take on the NBA, because you go into a whole different animal now, and are you ready to do it? Now, selfishly, heck yeah, I want Naz Reid back at LSU, man. You kidding me? To be able to watch that guy play against college players again for another year, that'd be beautiful. So, it really depends on how you look at it, that what you want to get out of the results. So, so many people have different ways that they want to look at it. Daniel Gafford came back. He admitted he just wasn't ready. Wasn't there, maybe mentally wasn't there.
Number one team in the country is in the SEC in Tennessee. Kentucky's got a great roster. Frank Martin left Baton Rouge last Saturday and said LSU's roster rivals anybody in the conference. Tom Crean said the same thing when he left Baton Rouge on Wednesday night. Where is LSU in this SEC kind of roundup, and then when you start to look at this national scope of it as they start to barrel down towards March?
I'm telling you, man, we were going to dive deep into LSU on Wednesday night, but we just didn't have enough time with the overtime with Tennessee Vanderbilt. So maybe we'll do it next week on the SEC Now show. But they check all boxes, LSU, to legitimately Sweet 16, even beyond. Because, once you get to that Sweet 16, anything. You're really dealing with teams that are so close in talent, skill, experience. But when you look at LSU, Tremont Waters, the ultimate point guard. Great vision, great hands, great feet, great speed, great instincts. He can score. He can give you 30 or he can give you 15 assists. The great thing about Tremont Waters is he, in any situation in the game, he can slow it down, make a good decision at the end of the game. He can speed the game up if he needs to get guys involved. So that's the first thing. You have a guy you trust handling the ball for you and running the show. The second thing, we talked about shooters. You've got Sky Mays, Marlon Taylor we talked about. Naz Reid can make a three. Javonte Smart can make a three. Darius Days, come on, man. He comes off the bench and makes threes.
Yeah.
And so, what, you don't have three-point shooters? Yes, you do. And then, by the way, we can put Naz Reid down in the paint. Emmett Williams, Big B Williams, SEC Player of the Week. So, and you've got rim protection with those big guys. So the only thing, and I know Will Wade's like, come on, fellas, if we can just get on the same pace defensively, we can have a special run this year. And I think they do. I think they're top. I hate the rankings because who knows what the difference between number 25 is and number 17. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they play on the court, 25 probably beats 18, half the time. So to think LSU cannot make that deep run to the tournament, I see them doing it. They have what it takes to do it, certainly.
Pat, thanks for the time this morning, man. Have a great call tomorrow.